All right, guys, it's another week, another big update, and this one is actually a big update. This one is a patch. And so this one's what they're calling a major update now. Instead of calling it a patch or a hotfix like they did on Borderlands 3, the patches are now called major updates and the hotfixes are now called minor updates.
Because of the implication.
It sounds like we're going to probably get major updates once a month, generally, not every month probably. And then the minor updates will get probably every Thursday or most Thursdays, I would say. So this is for November 20th, 2025. And let's just jump right in. So this is something that I know me, Moxie, and a few other people have mentioned as like an option that Gearbox could do to like really make in-game a little bit more fun, is making it so that we have multiple big encores every week instead of just one new big encore every week and everybody's like, oh, I'm just gonna go after this shiny, and like they just spend their entire week right there, that one boss, just over and over. They're now going to have multiple options, so I think that's going to be a really good thing. Further into the future, we're looking at ways to improve shared character progression, add additional in-game focused activities. Did somebody say takedown, launch cross save support, and more. So yep, that's the big one right there, guys. That's something we've asked for since before Borderlands 4 dropped. I'm not giving them an easy pass on this. This is something that should have been in the game at launch, in my opinion, or at the very least a month or two after launch, like what we got with Borderlands 3. Not sure why they just completely ignored one of everybody's favorite things about Borderlands 3, which was the Maliwan takedown. Maybe it's because the Guardian takedown left such a bad taste in people's mouths that they thought that people hated takedowns. I don't know, but Maliwan takedown is godly S tier content, so I don't know why you wouldn't bring something like that back.
Enjoy.
And with all today's changes, we hope you can feel positive effects in gameplay as you experience how rush save Mercenary Day and make progress on your vault cards. Now, one of the big things that was announced today was that the Mercenary Day DLC, the bounty pack, is free for all players, as you can see right there. Originally, this was going to be paid content, and it worked out to be about a $10 piece of content because the bounty pack set is $40 or $39.99 if you want to be like technical. So each thing worked out to be about, you know, $9.99 essentially, but they made this one free, and we got a new boss, we got new legendary loot, we got vault cards, we got new missions, we got new cosmetics. There's a lot to go into on this, and we're going to actually play through this on stream here in just a minute, but we wanted to break down all this stuff first. All right, as for the patch notes, the notable changes: they have updated the weekly wildcard missions to set additional start points in missions. So in other words, like the developer's note says here, this feature will allow future weekly wildcard missions to jump straight into the meat of a mission. So not as much dialogue. I mean, it's not perfect. Like, let's be honest, guys, the weekly wildcard system I've barely at all interacted with. That said, I'm glad that people have that option if they do want to use that. But yeah, I think this is a good change, you know, letting people jump straight into the meat of a mission. Now, what that actually entails, don't know yet.
Wildcard, bitches!
Class mods have been adjusted to drop more for your current character. That's right. So if you're playing as Rafa, no more getting 47 Amon comms before you get your Rafa comm. So that's pretty nice. Converted the Phosphine weapon challenge from character base to profile wild progression. So as you can see right here, I have my Rafa loaded up, and my Rafa has been collecting Phosphines like crazy. But so have my other characters. Originally on my Rafa, I think it was sitting at 12 or 13. Now you can see I'm sitting at 21 out of 69 on the Phosphine guns. These are the shiny guns, or in other words, the guns that have this rare skin on them. Now those are all account wide, instead of being each individual vault hunter would have like 4 or 5, and then you'd have like one on another one, etc., etc. Now they say this is the first example of allowing more progression to be shared between all characters on your account. So this sounds kind of like interesting. This might be something that, you know, a lot of people have been complaining about when they make a new character, not having like the map unlocked, not having their bank fully unlocked, things like that. So hopefully Gearbox is listening and they've taken all that into consideration, and this sounds pretty promising actually. Reduce the likelihood of unintended movements or knockbacks while reviving a teammate. This is actually a really underrated positive change right here. When you're playing with other people and you're trying to revive them, I don't know how many of you guys have experienced this, but you feel like you're made out of paper. You get like just barely bumped, and all of a sudden you're flying across the map and your teammate's gonna die. So this is nice. This is a simple change, but basically they've just making it so that you have more mass while you're reviving a teammate, and it makes it much tougher for enemies to knock you away from your partner. That's a freaking solid change right there. They added a new legendary loot indicator to the combat radar for easier identification of high rarity drops, and let me show you guys that as well. So we go into my inventory and let's drop a Chaosin on the ground. And now you can see with my combat radar up in the right hand corner, even if I have my back turned to that legendary, even if I'm like outside of a building, I will know that a legendary dropped over here behind me without having to face in that direction. You might also notice on our compass at the top, it no longer shows the legendary on the ground. So I don't know if it's just a matter of they swapped it from that to the combat radar. I think it's a positive change either way. So I didn't like having the legendaries on the compass, because if you just turn slightly away from it, you wouldn't even know it's behind you anyhow. So that's another positive change in my opinion. In terms of the gameplay and mission progression, they addressed an issue that caused the loss of SDU tokens or specialization points. I've heard a lot of people saying that this was happening, so it's good to see that they changed that and fixed that and resolved that. There is a bunch of other odds and ends under the gameplay that have been adjusted. You guys can go to borderlands.com and read those for yourself, so I'm not going to go into all those. It would take forever. As for Vault Hunter changes, up first, Amon the Forge Knight. They updated the Forge Knight Forge Drone Challenge so it unlocks properly upon meeting completion requirements. They corrected skill tree investment functionality to prevent Forge Knight from applying skill points out of order. Updated weapon input handling so Forge Knight can reliably swap weapons after using the whip attack. I don't remember experiencing any trouble with that myself, but who knows? I don't know. Rafa the Exo Soldier. The Soldado kill skill passive has been adjusted to function properly with 2 skill points. If you're not aware, Soldado is one of the strongest skills that Rafa has, and it's right down here. It's one of the capstone skills. So I've got a single point in that, and then if I put on, let's say, the Dancer comm, now we have 2 out of 1 there, so it's actually going to finally boost my bonuses properly, whereas previously it didn't actually work to do that. They improved Project Raiju capstone behavior so Apophis Lance consistently damages enemies during extended uptime. They adjusted Booming Business passive's functionality to prevent grenade spawns when the passive skill exceeds its intended level cap. Updated the Temerariario's passive skill so it provides the intended gun damage bonus rather than a general damage increase. Vex updated the challenge tracking so the target prescience passive only progresses when damaging valid targets. Huge changes for Vex. Thanks, Gearbox. Harlow the Gravatar ensured that the QED passive skill would remain functional in multiplayer. Updated Gravatar's 0-point action skill so it now properly enters cooldown when used on enemies immune to stasis. Previously, using the skill on a stasis immune target after affecting a normal enemy could cause it to remain active instead of triggering a cooldown. And then for all vulnerers, they adjusted critical hit calculations to gun and enhancement damage now applies correctly to all valid hit regions. Adjusted cryo resistance scaling, prevented action skills from activating during the first loading screen. Updated kill volume logic to ensure vault hunters cannot cheat death while in fight for your life and healing with the legendary shield Guardian Angel, and ensured sniper ammo displays full capacity when creating a level 30 vault hunter. Gear and rewards. Adjusted melee damage on bayonet weapons, so if you have a gun that has a blade on it, it's finally going to get a bonus to melee damage, guys. What a crazy concept. That's been in every Borderlands game, but it wasn't in Borderlands 4 until now. Yay! They updated the Scully grenade to adjust projectile damage for consistent output, so hopefully that means that this thing actually does more damage. They corrected the boss health bar updates, so sustained heavy ordnance damage from Amon now displays correctly. They updated Torg heavy weapon Ravenfire, so now it correctly applies elemental damage when equipped with elemental parts. All right, now there's some gear balance that's actually really interesting. Number 1, the Dark Beast got buffs. They addressed the scaling issue, so apparently this thing was not scaling properly as was, but they also increased the explosion chance from 5% up to 20%. That's a nice change. And they increased the damage by 15%. This might make the Dark Beast a really, really good SMG. We're gonna have to try it and see. The Prince Harming. Now this thing has become a meme in the community already because number 1, it kills you when you use it. And number 2, it never seemed to really do a whole lot anyhow. So they addressed the scaling issue on this one as well. The self-damage amount has been reduced from 5% to 1.5% of damage done. And the damage has been increased by 24%. Very nice. Now the onslaught that drops from Idolater's Soul, they have increased the damage on this thing by 75%. This thing might be really crazy right now. And again, another high fire rate SMG there. The Ruby's Grasp. Now, I think this is actually the second time the Ruby's Grasp has been buffed. Let's see if Loot Lemon has this on here. If you go to their changelog, yeah. So let's see. On September 25th, they gave TDR weapons a 10% damage and 10% mag size buff. So that was already a buff. And then on October 9th, they gave it a 50% damage and 25% fire rate buff. That was already pretty dope. And then now they're giving it even more damage. And I don't know if you guys guys have seen my Rafa build, but I used the Ruby's Grasp on there even before the previous two buffs, and it was already really good. So now it's about to be one of the strongest pistols in the game. Get yourself a Ruby's Grasp. You need to go farm Vile Lictor, as it's going to be a pain in the ass, but this gun is stupid good. The Lucky Clover, which again, that's another one of those guns that I've just barely even touched because it's so weak. They did buff that damage on that. The Vamoose Sniper Rifle got a 20% damage buff, and the Asher's Rise, they addressed the scaling issue. Again, it feels like there's quite a few items in the game that just did not scale properly, and this seems to be one of them. And then he only gave it a 5% damage increase after fixing the scaling issue on that. And then in terms of the firmware, they've heard us. They know that the ultimate level firmware has been underperforming, and a lot of people have been using the non-ultimate level firmware. But Get Throwing is one that I use on my Rafa, and they are already buffing that thing. Like right now, I'm using on my Rafa 2 and Get Throwing, so my ordnance damage is about to be even crazier. I'm about to just absolutely wreck everything in sight. But they increased it from 10% to 35%. Dead by Deo, if you're using Daedalus items, they've increased the damage from 20% to 35% if you're using that firmware, and mag size bonus from 15% only to 20%. Not a huge change there. This isn't a huge change either, but any change is a positive change for these things. Rubber Band Man, they did the damage reduction increase from 5% to 10%, and then the lifesteal, they doubled that as well from 5% to 10%. Jack, this one's the Hyperion one. This one, they got the zoom in speed bonus has been increased from 20 to 35%. Hyperion shield capacity increased from 25% up to 50%. That's a big change there. And the ricochet chance has been increased by another 10% as well. Now, I don't know why there's two Atlas. Almost feels like they should just combine these into one thing or something. I don't know, whatever. But either way, both of those got bonuses and increases, so check those out there. Real Big Fist, if you're doing that, the explosion radius has been slightly increased. And then Airstrike, another one that was actually already solid, they've increased the missile damage by 35%. Now Airstrike, the missile is like the third step of the Airstrike firmware, so that's been the thing that I've ignored, is the third piece of firmware for Airstrike, and instead going 2 in Airstrike and 3 in something else. But I might switch that up and try 3 in Airstrike now with that 35%. They've also decreased the cooldown from 8 seconds to 5 seconds, so it's going to happen a little more often. There's a bunch of UI, UX, and text improvements, including restoring filter functionality to lost loot menus and address non-functional filter selections and sorting dropdowns. This is a good one right here. The transfer machine, whenever you're doing the firmware transfer stuff, you will no longer exit the machine when you go to like do things after you inspect an item. That's a positive change there. There's a bunch of other options and changes down here through the UI, UX, and text, so you can read those again at the link that I'll put in the description of the video. Same with the visuals. There's a bunch of visual changes that you can go through. I'm not going to go through all those, just know that there is a lot of them. And then audio, they've made some audio changes, and then the player experience, they've done a few updates there as well. Maurice's Black Market Vending Machine this week is going to be located, here we are. So there's our Maurice Black Market Machine, which again located right here on the map. If you find like this triangle of roads right here, which is a little to the east of Driller Hole's place, and again a little bit to the west of the Rustical Hurl silo, it's right there where these crossroads seem to like kind of smash together. So that's it for this week's update. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit the bell icon for more, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.